Hello and welcome to Kayak, where everything's controlled by evil cats. My name's Beast. I'm a servant of the evil feline horde and your host. So let's get started. Today's literary adventure takes us once again back to the Endless Quest book series with Book 5, Revolt of the Dwarves. This book is once again written by Rose Estes, with cover art by Larry Elmore and internal illustrations by Jim Holloway. The book has 153 pages and 23 different endings. My review copy is a first edition, printed January 1983. Unfortunately, it only took me one attempt to reach a good ending, so I must put the difficulty level for this book at 1 out of 10. So, let's take a look at the cover. Unfortunately, the cover is very uninspiring, much like most of the book. The cover depicts a bunch of riders on horseback, most likely dwarves, racing forward. So let's take a look at the back cover blurb. You must save the kingdom. Your family is captured by the Dwarven warriors who have just begun their revolt against the human rule. You manage to escape, but they are searching everywhere for you to keep you from spreading the word. What will you do? The paths you may take are many, and the choices are yours. Will you travel down the dangerous river of dragons, knowing that magical monsters live on and guard its banks? Will you enter the enchanted forest and enlist the aid of the pixies in saving the kingdom? Or will you tackle the dwarves in their own dark caves and try to rescue your parents before warning the kingdom? Action and adventure are yours in every Endless Quest book. You will find yourself returning again and again to experience new paths of excitement. Remember, only you can stop the revolt of the dwarves. After the last few books in the series that had wonderful storytelling with woven in lore from Dungeons & Dragons, this book kinda ends up being a big disappointment. Yes, the book has 3 different main paths for you to complete the adventure, but sadly, like the cover, they are uninspired. In the Endless Quest book series, there are basically 2 different types of stories. The first is where you're an adventurer or a warrior and you're dropped into a situation and you have to try and figure your way out. The second is when you're a child where you have to look around and find adults to help you along your journey. Sadly, this book is one of the second kind. I remember trying to read this book several times as a child and I couldn't get past the first few pages. Sadly, the path I chose when reading this book the first time was the long, drawn-out political pathway where you deal with the dwarves directly. The main protagonist of this story is Galen, a young boy, I'd say roughly 6 to 7, who has an annoying puppy named Wolfie, and this dog damn near gets you killed several times along your adventure. Your father is a map maker for the king, and this is why the dwarves end up kidnapping him and your mother. Luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, you manage to hide and escape the dwarves, and that's how the book starts. I decided to take the path where I went and dealt with the dwarves directly because I figured if my character is going to be a whiny little child, nobody's going to really believe them. Along my journey, I ended up getting captured again by the dwarves anyway, and then thrown in a cell. After a while, a blind dwarf came up to me and released me from my cell after I agreed to help him release his son and help them stop the new ruler of the dwarves from causing any more havoc. After releasing his son, we traveled to the human castle because I believe that they believe the 2 dwarves more than just me alone. Unfortunately, when we got to the castle, the drawbridge had been drawn already, and I ended up having to sneaking in through the sewers to get inside while the 2 dwarves waited outside. I ended up getting trapped underground, but thankfully I was able to provide a distraction long enough for the blind dwarf and his son to reason with the prince as well as most of the other dwarves. We ended up winning the conflict, and the new ruler of the dwarves was imprisoned. The second time I read the book, because I couldn't stand just having to deal with that boring story, I ended up finding myself along the pixie path. This story is better than the first, but The way you get the good ending on this path is by basically being a backseat observer and just going along with what everyone else says. This book is honestly a great example of having a good concept but a poor execution. Yes, there are several other good and interesting things in the book. This third path is more of a Huck Finn river-like adventure, but the only other ending that I know of is one where you deal with a dryad and you end up spending so much time with her that you give up on humanity and turn into a tree. Overall, having a young and annoying protagonist and dog as your main characters really didn't work for me in this book. The concepts of the story are good, the illustrations are great, albeit they're not quite accurate for the story, but in the end, this book ends up being extremely forgettable. In fact, this is the first out of 5-book stretch that is coming up of Endless Quest books that are rather forgettable. I give this book a 1.5 paws out of 5.